In our headlines on this Friday afternoon, July 5th, here on the peninsula. Korea logs its largest current account surplus in well over 2 years, amounting close to $9 billion in May amid greater demand for semiconductors. That has also led to an estimated second quarter operating profit of some $7.5 billion for Samsung Electronics. Meanwhile, the driver of the deadly car crash that led to over a dozen casualties in central Seoul Monday night claims his vehicle accelerated on its own and that his brakes failed to work. Over in the UK, a dramatic shift in leadership is looking likely as exit polls show the Labour Party poised for a major victory over Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party. Korea logged its largest current account surplus in over 2 years in May, bolstered by exports. According to the Bank of Korea, the surplus amounted to $8.9 billion. Now, this is the highest since September 2021, and analysts are linking it to exports, which soared some 11% on year on greater demand for semiconductors. It also marks a rebound from April, when the current account swung into the red for the first time in a year, amid increased dividend payments to foreign investors. And Samsung Electronics has beaten market expectations by projecting remarkably higher operating profits for the second quarter of this year. The tech giant on Friday shared an estimated second quarter operating profit of 10.4 trillion Korean won, or around $7.5 billion, marking an over 15-fold surge on year. The latest performance comes amid higher costs and greater demand for memory chips driven by the boom in AI computing. Sales, meanwhile, soared 23.3% on year to hit $53.6 billion during the second quarter. Also on the local front, the driver of the deadly car crash that led to over a dozen casualties Monday night claims his vehicle accelerated on its own and that his brakes failed to work. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
Police in Seoul have conducted their first interrogation on the driver behind the deadly car crash that killed 9 and injured 7 others near City Hall on Monday night. The questioning took place on Thursday at Seoul National University Hospital, where the driver is being treated with 4 investigators and a lawyer present. During the 2-hour interview, the driver reiterated his initial statement that it was a sudden unintended acceleration that caused the deadly accident. According to the 68-year-old driver, surnamed Cha, he tried to step on the brakes, but it was stiff and could not be pushed down. As Cha is still recovering from his injuries, the police plan to continue questioning at a later date. Additional investigations will be conducted to inquire about the basis for determining sudden unintended acceleration, whether there were any abnormalities during the vehicle operation, and why the driver was driving in the wrong direction in the first place. It has been confirmed that the driver had begun accelerating from the time he left a hotel parking lot, so he's also expected to be asked about the reason for speeding at the time. On top of that, the police will question Cha over why he drove towards a group of pedestrians on the sidewalk. Police also say that based on an ongoing analysis of the sedan's event data recorder, the suspect significantly pressed the accelerator shortly before the accident. They also discovered that the secondary brake light did not light up during the accident and that no skid marks were found at the scene, contradicting the driver's claim of having applied the brakes. A Seoul court on Wednesday denied an arrest warrant request by the police, saying that he has no reason to evade police question, as he's currently hospitalized and under police protection for his personal safety. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Senior doctors at Seoul's Asan Medical Center are limiting their care of patients in a show of solidarity to doctors in training who walked out of hospitals earlier this year in protest of government plans to boost medical school seats. Our Cha Yoon-kyung reports.
At an emergency committee meeting of professors of medicine at the University of Ulsan, affiliated with the Asan Medical Center, they said that they will take intensive measures to ensure that there is no disruption in the treatment of critical illnesses and emergency care, but begin reducing non-essential treatments and surgeries instead of going on a full-scale strike. On the first day of readjusted medical treatment, the emergency committee predicted that major surgical operations would drop by 29% compared to last week. Hospital management expects there will be no massive disruption since there are about 10,000 outpatient appointments as usual. In response, a group of 92 patient organizations staged a rally in central Seoul on Thursday, calling for doctors to end their ongoing walkout that has disrupted public health services and caused fear among patients. On the same day, Lee Sang-min, the Minister of Interior and Safety, vowed measures to minimize any negative impacts on returning trainee doctors, reiterating that the government will support them. Minister Lee once again explained the necessity of medical reform and urged trainee doctors to return to work. Lee also asked residents to engage in dialogue to actively explain their demands. The government will announce measures for trainee doctors who have not returned to work in the near future. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, lawmakers across the aisle are locking horns as parliamentary votes on Thursday ended a ruling party-led filibuster and passed an opposition-led proposal calling for a special probe into the death of a Marine. Our correspondent Lee Si-hoo has more.
On Thursday, the National Assembly voted to approve the opposition-led bill calling for a special prosecution probe into the death of a Marine during last year's flood rescue operations and alleged government interference with a preliminary investigation into the case. It passed with 189 votes for and 1 against amid the ruling People Power Party walkout and protest. The voting followed a day-long filibuster launched Wednesday and an ensuing clash over its end declared by Speaker Woo Won-sik. During the filibuster, the PPP asserted the bill was politically motivated and targeted President Yoon Suk-yeol. The opposition bloc, led by the main opposition Democratic Party, reiterated the need for a special investigation, bringing up allegations that the government and military officials interfered with the initial internal investigation. But the bill was actually first introduced during the 21st National Assembly, also by opposition lawmakers who passed it unilaterally in early May. President Yoon Suk-yeol later vetoed the bill and it failed to pass a revote by the Assembly. The DP then reintroduced the bill as its first legislative goal when the 22nd National Assembly began its term at the end of May. Following Thursday's vote, PPP leader Chu Kyung-ho said the party will not be attending the opening ceremony of the 22nd National Assembly, originally scheduled for Friday. Chu also requested that President Yoon Suk-yeol too does not attend. Meanwhile, a high-ranking official at the presidential office called Thursday's legislative move a violation of the Constitution and a shame to the constitutional history. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Over in the UK, a shift in leadership has been set in motion as the Labour Party secures a major victory over Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party. Our Song Yu-jin reports.
Conservative Party leader and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has conceded defeat in the general election. According to Sky News, Labour had already surpassed the number of seats needed, 326 out of 650, in the House of Commons for a majority as of 1:20 p.m. Korea time, making Keir Starmer the new Prime Minister. The Tories had picked up 84 seats as of 1:20 p.m. Korea time en route to what exit polls forecast to be their worst performance in a general election in the party's history.
The Labour Party has won this general election, and I have called Sir Keir Starmer to congratulate him on his victory.
Exit polls also expect right-wing Reform UK to capture 13 seats. The party leader Nigel Farage took a seat in the East England constituency of Clacton after 7 previous failed attempts at becoming an MP.
Voters from across 650 constituencies in England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland headed to the ballots on Thursday after Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in May made a surprise move by calling for an early election. However, due to economic turmoil, inflation, worsening public health care, and increased immigration, a Labour victory was predicted even before the election began. Opinion polls consistently show Labour with a lead of around 20 percentage points over the Conservatives, with the support in the 40% range. The Labour Party has focused on centrist policies and pledged to rebuild public welfare services and achieve economic growth. 송유진, Arirang News.
Prospects of peace in Gaza are slowly but tangibly growing as Israel and Hamas appear committed to hammering out a ceasefire and hostage release deal. Our Cho Soo-young explains.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to send a delegation to negotiate a new ceasefire and hostage deal with Hamas. The announcement comes a day after reports emerged that the Palestinian militant group has sent a new ceasefire proposal. David Barnea, the director of the Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, will visit Qatar, the mediator country, as the head of the negotiating team. Hamas also stated that they have agreed to some of Israel's proposals positively. According to Reuters, ceasefire negotiations are set to start on Saturday. This raises hopes for a breakthrough. The Israeli Prime Minister's office said that Netanyahu had also discussed a new ceasefire and hostage release deal over the phone with U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday. But during the talks, the Israeli leader also emphasized his firm stance that he would only end the war once all goals have been achieved. The White House stated that President Biden welcomed Israel's joining in negotiations with the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt, and reaffirmed its strong support for Israel. The U.S. government official also said in an online briefing that there is a pretty significant opening to reach a ceasefire agreement. Meanwhile, there has been an increase in fighting between Israel and Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Hezbollah has targeted military bases in northern Israel with 200 rockets in total fired. The group says it is retaliation for an Israeli airstrike that killed a senior commander on Wednesday. An Israeli officer was killed by the strike, and Israel conducted airstrikes in southern Lebanon in response. Cho Soo-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, back on the local front, Korea has launched a trial run of a new identification system that seeks to offer Koreans residing overseas access to online services that currently require verification using a Korean mobile phone number. Our Shin Ha-young has details.
In South Korea, accessing online services such as printing certain documents or accessing online banking often requires verifying your identity, which involves entering a verification code sent via text message. This code confirms your identity based on the name and personal information that's registered with your domestic telecom provider. But sometimes it's not that easy.
People living abroad have had trouble with the identity verification process when using South Korean online services because they don't have a South Korean mobile number.
To address this issue, in collaboration with the Presidential Committee on the Digital Platform Government and the Overseas Koreans Agency, the Ministry of the Interior and Safety on Wednesday launched what's called the Mobile Overseas Korean Identity Verification Card Service.
The government will build a digital platform to make it easier for everyone to use administrative services. We will work to ensure that the advancements in digital technology are not a barrier for anyone.
Overseas Koreans have welcomed the new service as it now gives them to access domestic online administrative services. However, with concerns over limited service availability, the government has pledged to expand the usage.
After setting up a stable system and amending related laws, we'll make the mobile ID cards available for domestic mobile banking services. We'll also enable its use for identity verification instead of using passports at diplomatic offices.
Having to visit diplomatic offices for the initial issuance of the mobile ID cards was seen as an inconvenience.
In the United States, not all states have those offices, so residents may need to travel to another state, which can be inconvenient.
Right, so we're looking into ways to streamline this process. We're also working on enabling overseas residents to obtain online certificates to give them access to South Korean online services using their e-passports.
Starting Wednesday, the service is being piloted at 7 locations, including the Korean embassies in China, Vietnam, Indonesia, and the Consulate General in Los Angeles. The service will be available at all diplomatic offices abroad by the end of this year. 신하영, Arirang News.
Baseball here in Korea has been attracting a larger and more diverse fan base in recent years as younger and more female spectators fill stadiums. Our An Sung-jin was out and about.
Screams and shouts echo around the stadium. Any South Korean ballpark will make you want to get up on your feet to join the cheering crowd. Baseball has been known as having a relatively older fan base, with the average fan being in their 50s. But over the past few years, a particular trend stands out. It's the increasing number of younger fans and female fans that come to watch the game.
I think I come here to enjoy the delicious food and cheer with other people. The cheering culture is well developed, so you get to have fun with your friends.
I think people are interested because the cheering culture is so well developed.
I would agree on the cheering culture, but also new TV shows on baseball are trending these days, so I think that also boosts the popularity.
The KBO Korean Baseball League looks set to see a record-high 10 million stadium goers by the end of the season. And according to a major ticket office for the league, 4 out of 10 audience members are in their 20s, which is nearly double what it was in 2019. And more than half of the audience is female.
Experience.
Then what attracts this younger age group? An official says there's more to Korean baseball than its outstanding cheering culture.
As we work with more OTT services such as YouTube as well as Instagram, fans get to enjoy more of our content. There are also many content creators that the Korean Baseball League has to compete with, so we plan to develop more sports content that captures not only young fans but other age groups too.
With the vibrant cheering culture attracting more and more fans, an afternoon at the ballpark looks to be one of the hottest tickets in town. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. French government spokesperson Prisca Thévenot, who is a candidate in the country's snap parliamentary election, was attacked while campaigning in Paris, as a growing number of candidates and activists are being targeted in the run-up to Sunday's final round of elections. Thévenot was putting up election posters with members of her team in the southwest of Paris when a gang of around 10 youths assaulted them for trying to stop them from defacing party posters. While Thévenot herself was not harmed, her deputy suffered an arm injury and a campaign team member activist ended up with a broken jaw. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin said police arrested 4 people, including 3 teenagers. Prime Minister Gabriel Attal condemned the attacks and called on French citizens to reject the climate of violence and hatred that's taking hold. 30,000 police are set to be deployed across France for Sunday's second round of parliamentary elections to ensure order is maintained. Following Tuesday's crowd crush at a Hindu religious event in India that left 121 people dead, the Indian police said on Thursday that they had arrested 6 people in connection with the incident. A police report said that some 250,000 people gathered to listen to preacher Suraj Pal Singh, also known as Bol Baba, while the organizers of the event only had permission for a maximum of 80,000 people. 4 men and 2 women were arrested for the deadly crush in India's northern state of Uttar Pradesh, all of whom were aides of the religious leader. Preacher Baba stated on Wednesday that the stampede was caused by antisocial elements, with no further explanation given. Officials said that by Thursday, the dead, which includes 112 women and 7 children, have all been identified and their bodies given back to their families. This summer in Russia is proving to be one of the hottest seen in more than a century. Moscow broke its 1917 temperature record this week, and many cities across the country are sweltering in temperatures well above 35 degrees Celsius. According to the Phobos Weather Center, on Wednesday, the mercury rose to 32.7 degrees Celsius in Moscow, topping the record set in 1917 for that day by half a degree. Phobos stated that records were broken across the country from Russia's Pacific coast to Siberia and regions closer to Europe. While many Muscovites are finding relief in the city's fountains and parks, Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin urged residents to take precautions amid the heat wave. And finally, to New York's Coney Island and the annual 4th of July hot dog eating contest, where competitive eaters gorged on dozens of hot dogs. This year saw a new champion in the men's category, with Chicago's Patrick Bertoletti chomping down on 58 hot dogs in 10 minutes to take home his first mustard belt. Defending women's champion Miki Sudo broke a record with 51 hot dogs in 10 minutes, once again making history at the contest. The American spectacle, held annually on Independence Day, began in 1980, when the winners of the first ever competition tied with just 9 hot dogs each. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Most of the rain clouds have moved away from the peninsula, and the skies are turning sunny for most parts of Korea, beaming down very strong UV rays to extreme levels for Jeju and some of the south coast in the afternoon. So don't forget your sun protection items today. However, the heat gets stronger for those in certain parts of the country with heat advisories in place. The capital area has lower daytime highs though under cloudy skies. Seoul gets up to 27 degrees, Gwangju at 31, but Gyeongju tops out at 34 degrees this afternoon. Drink plenty of water and take it easy today. Also, food safety is a must around this time with the intense heat and humidity. Meanwhile, more monsoon rain is in the forecast this weekend. It's going to rain down heavily on Saturday in the central regions, but the south will be rainy on Sunday, so plan accordingly for your weekend. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions. That ends our Friday afternoon newscast. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session. Do stay with us. Thank you for now.